So probably on the second or third day that I was there, it was about midday. I was feeling fatigued and worn out, so I had to go take a midday nap. And we had these tiny little rooms to ourselves. I went to go sleep in one of the rooms, and just laying down, not even 5 minutes go by, not asleep at all, just wide awake staring at the ceiling. I start feeling like I'm crawling out of my body. Like I start feeling just suddenly that I'm crawling out of my chest, and I pull myself out. And when this is happening, I actually could hear my heartbeat, and I could hear it slowly stopping until I heard the last beat. And approximately at that time, I just found myself on the ceiling staring down. When this was happening, it felt extremely real, extremely solid, extremely lucid, and fully conscious. And it was extremely confusing because I couldn't figure out who I was looking at. I literally didn't know that that was me. And it didn't even seem or feel abnormal to me that I was on the ceiling several feet in the air looking down. It just felt normal to me at that time for some reason. But I started to look around, and I had my arms outstretched. They were light, but I could feel them, and I could feel my legs too. I still felt like a body, but I noticed some very enhanced things. Like, for example, I could see 360 degrees all around me. And it's not even necessarily eyes. It's like more like I'm beaming my whole being all around me. And I noticed that I could see through the walls. And there was a bunch of monks praying at the church next door. And I looked through the wall to them. And not only did I hear the monks pray, I felt everything they were feeling. I felt the deep emotion. Like I felt like that they were really trying to get in touch with God. Like they were really, like truly, their heart was in the right place. Their intention was pure as to trying to see God in that meditative prayer state. And I just remember looking at that and feeling appreciative that they were so genuine. So I morphed kind of back into the ceiling, and that's when it hit me that on the bed, that was me. The moment that realization came, I shot through the ceiling and felt a sensation that I will never forget. Indescribable. I always like to use the analogy of it being like a roller coaster when you're going on that first drop, except kind of in reverse because this was upward. Vacuum cleaner just sucked up into the air, right through the wall, right through the ceiling, super fast. And I remember like almost trying to catch my breath, but I didn't need to breathe. I wasn't in a body, but I still felt like I was breathing kind of. I don't know, it's hard to explain. And so I find myself way up in the air. I mean, overlooking the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, Northern California. I'm overlooking that entire region, probably several thousand feet in the air, more than that. And I noticed all these little wildfires everywhere. It looked so surreal. It looked so odd. Just everything had a simulation-like quality to it, but not at the same time. But my attention was then focused elsewhere, and I fully like sort of fused my consciousness to a city. And I'm 99% sure it was San Francisco, a place I'm familiar with. And I started projecting my consciousness, and it felt like tentacles or neurons that were just attaching everything. Like I could focus on one person, but then it would split off into hundreds of others. And I could feel everything they were feeling, everything they were doing, their whole being. I could sense what they were sensing, and their anxiety and their pain and their joy and everything. And it was cohesive and oddly beautiful. And I did this for a while. It kind of felt like I was doing it for quite a long time. Just moving about the city and feeling everyone's presence, and it felt like this organism. It had an organism-like quality to it, like each person was an individual cell and they're part of this collective unit sort of sensation. And I went higher into space, and I'm very far above the whole Earth now. I could see it actually almost at a distance. And I see the Earth, and it's shimmering with this sparkling, crystalline sort of substance. And I remember thinking to myself that it was beautiful and alive, and that this rock that we call home is no rock at all, that this is a living, real, sentient being. And I could actually sense a sort of breathing sensation from this planet we call Earth. I could feel it actually. It looked like the sensation or the motion of breath. So I look a little closer, more carefully, and I noticed the breathing was labored. It was in distress. It was in discomfort. And I wanted to associate whatever this crystalline sort of structure, it looked like some kind of weird mesh, spider's web. I don't know how to explain it. It almost looked like it shouldn't be there, but yet it should. And it's good that it's there, but at the same time, it's not good. I don't know how to explain it. And it's a labored breathing that it's feeling. And I remember feeling kind of worried and uneasy that that was what was happening. And I went further out into space and I saw our Milky Way, and it looked very similar to actually Hubble images, which is a bit odd because I know so many of those images are doctored and things of that nature. But it looked very similar, very bright colors, very beautiful, radiant galaxy full of light. And the universe as well, which is what I saw next. I subsequently ended up in the golden light. And this was an experience of indescribable proportions. I started noticing golden sparkles, or being surrounded by these very, very bright golden sparkles. And I was eventually enveloped or infused in this cloud-like light. It was this ethereal light mist. And it was humming, it was beautiful, it was like musical, it was singing, it was very real. It felt like home. It felt very familiar immediately. Still having the sensation of a body, but it's starting to dissipate at this point. I actually kind of went upside down and I flowed this way. Because remember, I'm going backwards, sort of, but my consciousness could see all around. But then as I see the golden light, I sort of flip forward to observe the light, and no sense of a body anymore. It completely dissipated, and I became a form of consciousness. I remember distinctly I had a dark blue color, this radiant blue orb, very electrical, very alive, and it felt so pure to be in that condition. It felt so natural, so much more natural than being here. It was the most perfected kind of version of my character. At that moment, when I started facing the golden light, it felt like this existence on Earth was an absolute minuscule, tiny, irrelevant little speck, like you go in and you just like tap your toe in the water. That's it. And it's done. You don't jump in the ocean and swim around for days and days. No. This life felt like you just take your tiny little toe there, you dip it, and it's done. Like that, blink of an eye. Didn't care. Whatever that was, it felt like I was on Earth eons ago. Totally not relevant anymore. I felt this love from the light. I felt this love, and I knew everything I'd ever done and everything that I ever will do for all of eternity, I will be loved and cherished exactly the same way. It will not deviate one bit. It will not change one bit. It will stay the same now and forever. Doesn't matter what circumstances I'm in or what I've done. That love is so powerful. It was a waterfall of endless love. So it basically directed me to another blue orb that I'm very familiar with. I couldn't put a name on the person, it just looked like a blue orb. And I knew this orb for eons, for timelessness, forever. It was like the closest family reunion. There's no time. It felt completely zero. It felt static. It felt like suspended animation. And I saw other orbs, and there were many different colors. I saw yellow. I saw white, pink, blue, velvet, red, all these different colored souls. floating around in total freedom. They were in greatest bliss and joy you could possibly imagine. It was such a fun place to be. It was so playful. It was so childlike. It was so joyful. It was so absolutely natural to be there. Remember how I just discussed everything balanced out, everything broken down and canceled out? Sort of similar, I'm observing a wheel, and this wheel is the earth. But it's actually all the events of the earth. Past, present, and future, all of them occurring simultaneously, and it looked like a film reel, sort of. However, a film reel, like 8mm film, would go in one direction and then the light would project that film onto a screen. This was not like that. There was no one direction. All of this was in every direction. There was no distinction between a future event, a past event, a current event. It was all fused and moment into this singular moment. But I could still differentiate between what I perceived to be the past and the future, right? I sort of like kind of projected my consciousness into certain events that I was looking at. And I remember very clearly seeing a lot of the ancient past that you would think of, like definitely remember seeing chariots and Rome and Colosseums in the Roman Empire. Less in the past, like for example, the British Isles, Ireland, and the kingdoms in those regions of the world and other places of the world with different, ruling bodies and things of that nature. And I remember thinking it's all this like just little blip of an existence. And I'm looking at these rulers and they think they're so important. Carl Sagan is my buddy because he accidentally said the same exact thing when he talked about the famous speech of the pale blue dot, where all the kings and queens who think they're almighty. He's exactly right. He was spot on. That's exactly what I saw. They're like, oh, they're so important? Give me a break. It felt like a joke. It's like, who are the kings and queens of our day? Is it presidents? No. It's Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Those are who we worship, really. I just remember seeing all these events play out on this wheel and no memory of the future. When I came back, I know I remembered it then. And funny thing is, I've always been obsessed with trying to discover the future ever since then. After being shown this wheel of time, and this is why I keep thinking that it's always existed, because that's the impression I was given, or what I was seeing when observing this, is that it's absolutely timeless. Its existence is eternal. So I then go back to the golden light, and it speaks to me. Most near-death experiencers remember as clear as day what the light told them. It's like the most important part of their whole experience. I remember everything in absolute greatest detail of more than anything in my life, except for what the light told me and those future events. I remember it speaking to me very clearly. It wasn't like a voice, but it was at the same time. So, okay, people talk about telepathy. That's not quite correct. It's both a voice and not a voice at the same time, almost like a paradox, like everything is a paradox. It felt like that, as hard as that is to explain. And it told me, basically, I don't remember the words, but I sensed that I couldn't stay. And I was really upset, and I really wanted to stay. And it started sending me back through all the realms again, and I saw everything in reverse of what I saw, like in a sequence, like almost like it was on purpose, and slamming back into my body.